you.
Sharon, and it pulls up for the guys.
Got a few people still joining us, so I'm gonna mute everybody for now.
That
If
must
I
be
can.
shifting the screen just to shift.
Actually, here, there we go. Mute, there we are. All right, friends, so while we're waiting on everybody to file in, I'd love for everyone to pop open the chat box. Just tell us where you're tuning in from. I know it looks like most everybody here is an old pro at this. You've been here several times. We've got a couple of brand new people. So if you wouldn't mind just popping into the chat box and letting us know where you're tuning in from, what you love to do. And specifically today, I'd like everybody to write down one interesting fall ritual that they love. Is it not fall for anybody here? I think the Aussies, it's like the middle of the night for them. So I know it's springtime there, but is it not fall for anybody? No, everyone from the UK is, yeah, okay, great. So write one fall ritual you love in the chat box. We're gonna come back to this later. So I wanna get everybody's favorite fall ritual in the chat box. Oh, Claire, it's so good to see you. It's been so long.
Hi, I know. Sorry, I've missed a few.
Oh,
Nice to see you again.
I'm just glad to have you back. I love that. I love the walking through the piles of red fallen leaves. That's my new favorite thing too. I just discovered a trail behind my house, and watching the leaves change, which I didn't think happened in Texas, is happening on this trail, and it's magical. I agree. Catherine and Anna eating apple crumble. Girl, I have apple crumble in the oven right now. I am not kidding. That's one of my favorite things too. I hope it's not gone by the time this workshop is over, because I've got 3, hungry boys out there. So, hello, Allie, welcome. Oh, and you're tuning in from Austin as well. Oh, that's so great. I love to read and write and spend as much time as I can with the trees. Favorite fall ritual is also crunching fallen leaves. Awesome. Allie, where do you like to be outside in Austin? You can just take yourself off mute if you want. Welcome, John. Oh, Allie, Town Lake, I agree. Although I'm sure it's insane right now. We have a big festival here in Austin called ACL. I don't know if you guys have heard of it across the pond, but ACL is a big deal here, and our city is just overrun right now. And Town Lake is a madhouse, but it is beautiful. And John, welcome. John, just to catch you up, we are opening the chat box, and everybody is just writing where they're tuning in from and one favorite fall ritual, if it happens to be fall where you are. And I happen to know it is out in California. So. Oh, and John, you have a friend with you too. Here, I'm going to ask you to unmute because I'd love to meet him.
Hey, Julia. I don't know if my camera's on because I can't see our screen. I can only see your screen. Hey, everyone. My name is John. This is Don. And we are here in San Diego.
John.
Hey, Catherine and Anna, how are you?
Good, really good.
Good to see you both. Can you guys see Don?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect.
Nice to meet you.
Julia is the organizer, and there's, I think it looks like 7 participants other than us.
That's right.
Okay.
We're going to give everybody another minute or so to peel in, because we did have 3 or 4 more folks on the sign up sheet. So right now we're just talking about our favorite fall things. It's something that we're going to come back to later in class. Do you guys have a favorite fall ritual?
Are you talking to us
Yes,
in
I'm
general?
sorry. I apologize. Yes, you in
Oh,
general.
no, that's quite all right.
Yeah, you can
Um,
just tell us. You don't have to write it in the chat box.
No,
fall in San Diego?
it's the same year round.
Yeah, so we're really fortunate that we live in a place that's kind of climate controlled. So, 72 and sunny is pretty much what we get.
Nice.
So we go to the beach. That's my fall ritual.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think you win at the fall ritual game. I think that's the coolest fall ritual there is, going to the beach.
It's not bad. Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to the beach. Christmas, we go to the beach. 4th of July, we
love
go
it.
to the beach. It's pretty
Lucky
nice place.
dogs. Lucky dogs.
Yeah. Sometime around October, we'll get like 50s and we all pretend it's cold and we put jackets on.
And I'm sure it's a big deal. Everybody gets their fur coats out,
Yeah.
That's awesome. Kate
We do
has a
have
similar, oh, please, Don, please keep going.
What?
I
Repeat that.
interrupted you. Keep
Oh,
going.
we have pumpkin patches
Nice.
out here. That's a big thing.
Everything grows like crazy here. So vegetables and fruit. So a pumpkin patch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the kids love that.
Do you pick a pumpkin and do you carve it
No,
with the kids?
it's for the kids mainly.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
I've seen some fantastic sculptures on our area of Halloween pumpkins. Like it's an art.
Yeah, totally.
Carving out rooms and palaces in a pumpkin. It's not limited to the eyes and the nose.
That's awesome. I was just thinking how cool it would have been to do a whole narrative medicine workshop on the art of pumpkin carving, but I didn't think of it until you just said it. So
Yeah.
next time.
for the room prompt, you can say carve a pumpkin room and put something hard to describe it in.
Next time. That sounds awesome. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started. I think if anybody happens to jump in the next few minutes, I'll just add them as we go. So for the folks whose first time it is here, this is a narrative medicine workshop, or as I like to call it, a healing arts workshop, because what we really focus on in narrative medicine is the humanities and the arts in healthcare. And all of this is really, to me, an ethical project, one that is trying to restore humanity to healthcare. And we do this not only by enjoying the arts together and diving into other people's stories, which is a very pleasurable experience, but also because that generous attention to other stories teaches us how to pay attention, how to notice details we wouldn't have noticed before. So as we look at poetry or paintings or pumpkin carving, we're actually practicing tuning into the details of conversation and the stories that naturally pop up in our personal and professional lives that we might not have paid as close attention to before. So today, the artwork that we're going to be studying together is actually by Margaret Atwood, whom I'm sure most of you guys know from The Handmaid's Tale. She is a master of dystopian fiction. And while that would be very appropriate for a Halloween version of this class, we're actually going to be studying a work by Margaret Atwood that is not as familiar, or at least was not as familiar to me. I did not know that Margaret Atwood was also a poet. And she writes truly beautiful poetry. This poem was actually introduced to me from a podcast by Padraig Otuma. I recommended this one to you, Anna. Have you heard this podcast yet?
I dipped into it on Friday or Monday when it came out, but luckily I didn't really finish it because I had to do something else. But
well, good.
So.
Good. I want us all to come to this with a fresh slate. I don't normally borrow material, but this one was just so good. I couldn't wait to share it with you guys, and it felt so appropriate to fall. This poem by Margaret Atwood is about baking bread. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up now. Would somebody volunteer to read this out loud to the group? You can just write in the chat box, pick me, or I volunteer. Thank you, Kate. And before you begin reading, as everyone listens to your voice, I'm going to invite you guys to write in the chat box a word, an image, a phrase, something that calls to you from this poem. It can be just one word, it can be a whole line. Just pop in the chat box as you hear it, and we'll circle back to these words, images, and phrases later. Kate, whenever you're ready, go for it.
All bread. All bread is made of wood, cow dung, packed brown moss, the bodies of dead animals, the teeth and backbones, what is left after the ravens. This dirt flows through the stems into the grain, into the arm, 9 strokes of the axe, skin from a tree, good water, which is the first gift, 4 hours. Live burial under a moist cloth, a silver dish, the row of white famine bellies swollen and taut in the oven, lungfuls of warm breath, stopped in the heat from an old sun. Good bread has the salt taste of your hands after 9 strokes of the axe, the salt taste of your mouth. It smells of its own small death, of the deaths before and after. Lift these ashes into your mouth, your blood. To know what you devour is to consecrate it, almost. All bread must be broken so it can be shared. Together, we eat this earth.
Kate, beautiful. Thank you so much for that gorgeous reading. That was so good and dense and full of imagery that I feel like we need to read it again to really soak it in. Would somebody else like to read this time? Maybe we can hear some different nuances in a different voice. You can just write in the chat box, pick me or I volunteer. Great, Claire, thank you. Whenever you're ready.
All bread. All bread is made of wood, cow dung, packed brown moss, the bodies of dead animals, the teeth and backbones, what is left after the ravens. This dirt flows through the stems into the grain, into the arm, 9 strokes of the axe, skin from the tree, good water, which is the first gift, 4 hours. Live burial under a moist cloth, a silver dish, the row of white famine bellies swollen and taut in the oven, lungfuls of warm breath stopped in the heat from an old sun. Good bread has the salt taste of your hands after 9 strokes of the axe, the salt taste of your mouth. It smells of its own small death, of the deaths before and after. Lift these ashes into your mouth, your blood. To know what you devour is to consecrate it, almost. All bread must be broken so it can be shared. Together we eat this earth.
Thank you so much, Claire. So as I'm reading through the chat box, I notice most everyone is really gravitating toward words and images that are gritty, to borrow a great word from Rini Paul. These almost subtly violent images that are, as Ali puts it, harsh, that talk of the small deaths in something as life-giving as eating bread. Claire also notices all bread must be broken so it can be shared, which is very interesting as well. There's so much happening in this mundane activity, or seemingly mundane activity, that holds so much history and influence, a whole ecosystem, a whole world in one loaf of bread. So I thought maybe we could start out just by talking quite literally about what is happening in this poem and in what order. So we can save the figurative, the metaphorical for later. Literally, what's happening in the plot of this poem? And feel free to just take yourself off of mute and just speak aloud since we have a smaller class today.
Hey, Julia, I'm just wondering as an aside, I apologize to break in. I'm wondering, is there a way, because that text is really small.
Ah, yes. Thank
Is
you.
Is there a way to zoom that out? Because I mean,
There is.
I'm one of those visual folks. I apologize.
No worries.
Hey,
I can
this is
make that
everyone.
happen. Let's do,
I'm so
gonna do,
sorry.
no, you guys are fine. Don't worry about a thing. I'm so glad that you let me know. So I'm gonna do a different kind of screen share. Ooh,
Yeah, that's not been an issue that I've noticed in the couple of years we've been doing this. So I guess it's just, there's a lot on that page too, boy.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's see if I can just,
Sorry, I derailed everything.
no, you're
guys can
totally
all blame
fine.
me.
You're totally fine. Thank you so much for telling me. All right, so share screen. Now I'm going to go to my desktop and see if, can you see that better?
A little better.
A little? See if I can,
Oh yeah.
even better?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't
better,
hear you.
Julia. Yeah, it's
I can't
definitely
hear you,
better.
John. Can I get a thumbs up from John and Dawn?
It's a little bit better, but I think your screen was bigger. So like now you made the font bigger. That's perfect. Now does that window?
It's distracting, you mean?
Is that distracting you? I can try to.
We can read it again for you. And you can close your eyes.
Oh, that's good.
No, that's better. Thanks.
That better?
I'll mute off now.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
No worries. Thank you. All right. So we have a lot to work with here. I'm actually going to see if I can pull up my chat box again one more time to pull up all those great words and phrases you pointed out. All right. So let's start just by wondering about the plot of the poem. What is literally happening and in what order?
It just dawned on me, Julia, there that she's describing that it starts from the earth, from deepest, darkest earth, and like all the life cycles of things that are coming. Somebody put life cycle, I think, into the chat box.
Yeah.
But it's the life cycles of all these different creatures and the moss, the cow dung, the dead animals. And then it's the life force again. The new life force is flowing through the stems into the grain, into the arms, 9 strokes of the axe. So it's really literally from the inception. I don't know what the number 9 is.
Let's put a question mark around the 9.
Maybe it's really obvious or something, is it?
Well, you know what? I'd love to pose that question to the group. Does anybody have any idea about the 9 strokes of the axe?
No, but it's the fact that it's twice in the third paragraph as well. Yeah. Something about maybe working hard and creating that salty taste. I don't know what the 9 strokes means, but it's repetition's interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, it might have, kind of more of a religious or ritualistic representation. Not that I still don't know it, but I mean, what's one of the most obvious things in the poem is at the end when it's like the bread must be broken,
yes,
like Jesus Christ, which is Christianity. So I'm wondering, does the number 9 have something to do with that religion, or even another religion, or a tradition of any kind? And just that kind of.
Yeah. Does anyone know? Is there any relevance to Christianity with 9 strokes?
Did Jesus get whipped like 9 times? I don't know. But
I actually think it was 40 lashes.
I was thinking 9 is nice.
I actually too bad.
To me, I of course there is no answer with a capital A here, but to me, it's just the fact that she gave a number. It's a specific number. This many times you had to stroke the axe. It's the number itself to me is kind of irrelevant, but what she's saying is there's a specific amount of work that goes into this, and hard work, over repetitive work. It's precise. Yeah. So I don't know. I'd be interested to hear if anybody has any cosmological or old religious history reason for the 9 strokes. But I just like that it's that specific.
I don't have a cosmological, but by the time it comes up in the 3rd stanza, it seems literally just to be when you pound bread dough to take the air out of it.
Yeah.
And then the salt from your hands would be in the bread dough.
Yeah.
Totally. So now we've moved from Catherine's observation that this is coming out of the earth, and now it's coming through a body, right?
Yeah.
It's we have the 9 strokes of the work, the labor, but we also have the salt from your hands, the salt from your mouth, right? So it's moving from earth to body. What else is happening here and in the order of
We've also got the time in the oven,
Yeah.
the heating up, the sun,
Uh-huh.
and the kind of the famine bellies, which can be very extended. So that kind of that rising of dough,
Yeah.
maybe something there. And there's also the bit there, also the number of the 4 hours.
Yes.
So again, time on there, which is again
That
quite
specificity, right?
Yeah.
4 hours.
Which you can definitely imagine though, 9 hours in the field just cutting, like I can, and I wouldn't question it. That's what for some reason I don't question the 4 hours. I'm like, oh, that's the afternoon's work or morning's work.
Where else? What other genre of literature do you see specific numbers, instructions?
Baking.
Yeah, a recipe.
Yeah,
exactly. This to me is a recipe, and so that's why that 9 strokes, 4 hours.
Okay.
There's a recipe and it's exact. And you guys bring up a great point that we're beginning in the earth. We're going now to baking, as Claire points out. From baking to our bodies. What's happening in that 3rd stanza? Where is the bread in the 3rd stanza?
In your hands.
Yeah. Where else after your hands?
in the mouth.
In the
In the
mouth.
mouth. So the 3rd stanza is about the material pleasure of holding and tasting this bread. And how ironic that in that pleasure of holding and tasting, it smells of its own small death, of the deaths before and after. What does this mean to you?
I also wanted to say, I mean, I love the live burial under a moist cloth, and that reminds me of like the billions of the yeast, and obviously yeast is bacteria and bubbles and stuff. So even just there, it clocked with me all the small deaths are like, you kill the yeast after you bake it all. So it's on a literal level, it's yeast.
Yeah.
It's,
This is not just a metaphor. Like there are actual deaths happening here. I like that. And if you go back to that 1st stanza, even the earth from which this bread comes is made of the bodies of dead animals, the teeth, the backbones, what's left after the ravens, this detritus, the leftovers of the world. There's death in bread. How interesting. What do you make of the line of the deaths before and after?
There's a little bit of kind of, not so much that line, but the building up to that line of kind of hope and anticipation, where you're, when you first smell the lovely smell when bread comes out of the oven, and maybe there's that just the reminder of what goes into it.
Claire, I couldn't agree more that this poem is really calling attention to the unseen or untasted things that we don't normally tune into when we're eating, all of the work that went into it, not just the work, but the violence that went into it, the fact of our sustenance relying on, in some way, the deaths of other things, the life cycle behind it all.
Yeah, it's extreme and naturally extreme.
Yeah.
was going to say the before and after. It's almost like the bread dies twice. You know, it dies in the making, but then it dies again in your. You
Eating.
kill it as well. You know.
Yeah.
A last time. You know. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, you know, Anna, you're reminding me of the last conversation we had about how sometimes to name something is to kill it. And this, I know that that's a huge conversation that if you guys are interested, there is a podcast of Anna and I having that talk. But I wonder here if to enjoy something in this way, you have to also acknowledge what what your role is in killing it, you know?
There's a truth.
What
Yeah.
about if we think about not necessarily killing it, but like we're doing work on stuff,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Or giving something a purpose.
Mm.
well, no, I mean, like whenever we interact with anything, right? So
Yeah.
on a cellular level, we're working on it. It's working on us, and we're all part of a big cycle. What's the analogy to the hardworking man and woman, right? Called salt of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So if we think about that and the salt from the skin when we're working hard, kneading the dough and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that just came to mind. So yeah, in a way it is. I mean, something is turning over by means of work, right? Something is cycling, something is living, something is dying. Don said, yeah, when you eat the bread, you chew the bread, you're killing it, right? Part of, like breaking it down,
Mm-hmm.
getting it ready. At some point, it will go back to soil.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of interesting if you think about it.
Yeah. So in that sense, change itself becomes a little death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
At least what's that?
And a life, right?
And a life. And a life. Absolutely, John. I think that's a really important point. This bread we're not just killing yeast, we're giving life to ourselves and, interestingly, to each other. Let's read that last stanza about where the bread goes next. Lift these ashes into your mouth, your blood. Know what you devour is to consecrate it. Sorry, to know what you devour is to consecrate it. Almost. All bread must be broken so it can be shared. Together we eat this earth. So it's not just life-giving for us, it's or for one individual body. This bread is broken and shared, which for me, growing up in the Episcopal Church where we broke bread on Sundays and we had a communion afterward. This was a very symbolic, had a lot of symbolic relevance. So I'm just wondering why do we have to break? To me, there's an emphasis on the word broken. All bread must be broken so it can be shared. What do you guys make of the broken? What does this have to do with ritual? The sacred?
Julia, sorry. I wondered whether I could just go back a step. I was just thinking like John about the process and what's happening and how there is something about the language that is making me notice how kind of quickly it's all over. You smell the bread and then suddenly it's in your mouth and working your way through its body. And I don't know, it just links to something you said earlier about naming things. And so I don't know, so for me it's almost inviting me to just sort of notice that and maybe even slow down a little bit before I move on.
Please.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't really, I apologies, I can't remember your question about the final stanza.
No,
but it was something about the breaking
I didn't
of
want to
bread.
interrupt. That was beautiful. Yeah, there's something here that seems to be calling us to slow down. I agree. To really slow down, to peer closer. So and perhaps it's not time yet for, in the spirit of slowing down, maybe we take a step back instead of jumping right into that final stanza. I suppose my question is really about the nature of the sacred here. If you had to ascribe some sort of idea of the sacred to this poem, what is sacred here?
Kind of, the process, the kind of the work.
Mm-hmm. The work, right?
How about one word, sustainability, or the sustainability of this whole process. I mean, we keep things, this process is what keeps us going.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty sacred to acknowledge. Like, you had mentioned breaking and what's
Mm-hmm.
important about breaking, and I know you don't want to go into that yet. When you use the phrase break bread, it makes me think of sharing meals with, family and friends. But we're also breaking bread when we eat it. We're breaking it down.
Yeah.
And we're producing nutrients and we're doing things that in some way will contribute to bread in the future. So that's a big, important process, I think.
Yeah, and John, as you're talking, I'm starting to think, it's not just about us, right? Like, sustainability is not just about us. We have to, in some sense, see ourselves as a part of the cycle of things. And so it's important to recognize not only the deaths of other beings that go into our lives, but also the way our deaths will in some way contribute. Our work, our sweat, our even our own leftovers, I think is probably the more polite way to put what returns to the soil from us, is all a part of this cycle. And it's not for us, it's for this sharing, right?
We also use that line when we're really struggling, of people being on the bread line.
Yeah.
We don't have enough bread to share, to eat, to get by, and sharing that bread together.
Mm-hmm.
Just struck me, that one as well.
Yeah.
In response to your question, Julia, about the sacred, the only word in this poem that directly references the word consecrate in that last stanza.
Mm-hmm.
But if that word weren't there, then at least for me, it feels to me that as a reader, I'm attributing sacredness to a lot of language that doesn't necessarily have sacredness in it. I mean, there's a lot of, I think somebody earlier said that the grit of this poem, cow dung, packed brown moss. There's nothing inherently sacred about the bodies of dead animals or ravens picking things clean. That the sacredness comes somehow from our coming to awareness, or in our own attitude. In that second stanza, the burial, the fact that the bread under a moist cloth set there to rise has no great significance unless we think of it as a burial. Or that the stain, the metal bowl that the bread might be rising in, to think of it as a silver dish is to give it some higher significance or greater significance. I don't know, it's interesting, your question about sacredness, whether it's in the poem or in our associations.
Kind of brings sacredness to daily life, kind of thing. Instead of all these fancy words, like consecration and things that mean big words, that mean big things. It's in the sacredness is in little words and little tasks like this. They're not they're tangible.
Yeah, I think life is really sacred in this poem. It talks so much about death, and it never directly references life, but to be alive and have senses and to have the ability to recognize those senses in the bread, like the smells and the taste and the looks and the feel and everything like that. I think there's so much death and brokenness in the poem, even as what John was saying, where you digest and everything gets broken down. There's just a lot that's breaking down in this poem. But I think even though it's not directly referenced, I think at the end, just to say together we eat this earth, it just shows that the people who are alive, that life there is sacred.
100% agree. That is wonderful. 100%. That just took everything I was thinking. Thank you so much for saying that so well. Yeah, this screams to me about life and
Life cycle.
yeah, and things that are really sacred and important to acknowledge. You know, the small role that we have in our each and everyday tasks in maintaining that cycle for ourselves, for our communities, and for the future. Giving thanks for what has been done in the past that enables us to be where we are. That's exactly what you just said in my mind. And that's beautiful. Thanks. That was good.
So there's a sense of gratitude nearly for this stuff that's been sacrificed. You know, sacrifice is kind of what I kind of thought when you think of breaking, you know. And back to Christianity again, and you know, just to bring it up, like, you know, the way Jesus, you know, was not broken, but you know, he was sacrificed to be shared. I'm not sure if I could use those words, but the bread sacrifice, and I noticed all of the material at the beginning, like the cow dung and the bodies of dead animals and like bones. I think, I'm not sure, I could be really wrong, but I'm pretty sure I've seen those items in history, in historical history of different religions. They're often the things that are sacrificed or lit on fire, you know, the cow dung anyway, and the bones and animals as well, and they're all objects of sacrifice, like holy objects of sacrifice. So yeah, to reiterate your point, yeah, gratitude for what's come and gone for us, and in our turn we kind of maybe might return the favor eventually.
And Julia, you know, I just wanted to add something that just struck me while Anna was talking. So the whole life cycle thing we've been talking about, I think that might have some significance when we think about the number 9, right? So the gestation period for a baby, right? It's typically about 9 months, yeah?
Yeah.
So when we think about renewal, we think about life, we think about processes of life and death. One of the most important celebrations of, you know, human life is when we find out, you know, a loved one in our community, our friends, our family, when someone's pregnant, we what a celebration, what a means of sustenance for all of us, right? We celebrate new life. So yeah, just kind of came. Anna, thanks for that. That struck me. I don't know what you all think about that, but
and
that's really interesting.
How interesting too that if we're beginning with this idea of gestation, which I love the interpretation of the 9 strokes as the 9 months, we also have a literal gestation of the earth into bread. It becomes not life, it becomes ashes. Lift these ashes into your mouth, your blood, right? So in a sense, we have this full life cycle represented just from stanza 1 to stanza 4, beginning with gestation and finishing with those ashes. But there's been so much brilliant conversation. I want to reiterate a point from everyone, but I want to return specifically to something that Kate said, where she said maybe we're ascribing the sacred to this, that it's really, you know, nothing here is talked about in at least the kind of language that we are used to hearing when we're talking about what is sacred. You know, there's no high religious talk, there's no idealization, there's no, I mean, this is gritty truth. And we have very gritty language, material language to describe it. And yet Kate said, if there is something sacred, it's in our perspective. It's how we look at this thing, like the baking as a live burial, that makes it somehow more sacred. And I just find that really, really interesting, because if I had to determine a cosmology from all of this, or a way of thinking about life, it would be that somehow paying attention consecrates, almost. To know what you devour is to consecrate it, almost. What do you guys make of the almost there? It's not, you know, paying attention makes it sacred. It's to know what you devour is to consecrate it, almost.
And putting almost on that next line creates a new line. Almost all bread must be broken.
Keep reading, keep reading.
So it can be shared.
Yes.
So it can be shared together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys hear this, and I'd love to get your interpretations, but for me, that's the missing step of the recipe that consecrates, is breaking it so it can be shared. Together we eat this earth. What do you guys make of it, though?
Hey, do you mind repeating that one more time? I'm sorry. Just to ask the question again. I'm sorry.
So I'm curious why you think what you think about the almost. Why is it to know what you devour is to consecrate it, almost?
I reckon I'm sitting here struggling with why she chose the word consecrate.
Yes, please.
That's kind of working on me.
Yes, more.
I mean, almost for sure. I'm just kind of, any of you brilliant folks out there got any thoughts about consecrate also? I mean, consecrate and almost, but.
Yes.
For me,
I would, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. I keep coming back to, for me, maybe it is the word consecrate. And I think that was such a good insight from Kate, I think. But like, even the whole idea of the ashes, you know, going from ash to ash, dust to dust. But just, I don't know, it just is bringing me back to church and to kind of mass and the consecration, and, you know, we will eat this bread and drink this blood, like the blood, the bread, breaking the bread, eating the earth. I don't know. I just think that there is a real ritual there, and I guess to know what you devour is to consecrate it. So it's almost to elevate it to a godlike level, like, and it's something eternal about it or something as well. Just the whole cycle of life, from the whole notion of eternity, perhaps, or something. So, and yet it's so earthy as well. So I'm grappling with it as well, I have to say, John.
Yeah, actually, Don just said over here, the sharing makes it sacred. And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that absolutely grabs me anyway. That struck me when he just said that. It's, you know, the breaking of the bread, the sharing, like the host, if we think about church.
Yeah.
Somehow we were talking about fall and the earth and leaves and pumpkins, and all of a sudden we're in church.
But a different kind.
But it's a different kind of church, right? Yeah.
Don, I think there's something so brilliant there. So thank you so much for bringing us back to this idea of what is sacred is what is shared. Together we eat this earth. That is where, for me, I hear the almost fall away. You know, that to know what you devour is to get halfway there, but to share it.
Yeah.
That's where the consecration happens. At least that's how I read it. And yet, as you guys are mentioning, there's a lot of, we're starting to dabble in a little more religious imagery here. But how is this kind of consecration different from the kind that we are familiar with talking about in a more Judeo-Christian history? How is this kind of consecration a little bit different?
I don't have anything to say yet, but I think Rini wanted to say, is it Rini? How do you pronounce your name? I think she wanted to say
Yeah,
something.
you've said it exactly right. Yeah, really. So I was just wondering whether Margaret is religious, and whether that's why she particularly used the word consecrate. I don't know her sort of background. I'm just making assumptions about her. But I guess for me, there is, I think we've all talked about the rituals being sacred and these sort of processes. And so I wonder whether it's, it's that is kind of sacred, and this whole process and understanding it, and whether using the word consecrate gives it some sort of gravitas, and makes us really stop and think about the significance, and that could be in a sort of religious sense, but it could just be because it's sort of poignant.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Rini.
I think in the second stanza, those white famine bellies swollen and taut is very disturbing, obviously. And yes, I'll share my toast. And I'm just thinking about how unsacredly we treat one another.
Mm-hmm.
That, starvation on the scale that it exists in the world is a function of overpopulation and unfair distribution of wealth and resources. And so to have that in the same poem, especially that the white famine bellies in the same stanza with live burial under a moist cloth, is awful. It's just terrible. And then to end the poem with consecration, I guess I'm just saying what I said before, that it has to do with awareness, that consecration and sacredness happens if we stop to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe is what I'm getting from it.
Mhm.
Nothing anybody hasn't said already. I'm just slowly coming to terms with this poem.
And I agree with you there, Kate. It's also the awareness then leading to the choice of what we do about it. So recognizing, I agree that the white famine bellies and the live burial, but recognizing and being aware of what we devour, and then what do we do about it? Do we share? Do we keep it to ourselves? And recognizing that actually together we eat this earth. That's almost that anything can happen to anyone. And at this moment we are not the white famine bellies swollen and taut in the oven, but it's just making me think of that choice we make to share once we become aware of the life cycle.
It's also I just noticed there the idea of us devouring something when there are people starving, as well, like the difference that just struck me there now too.
And also what Claire just said, I'm reading the first line now of the last stanza differently. Lift these ashes into your mouth. I read it originally as lift these ashes into your mouth, lift these ashes into your blood, via your mouth. But it could also be read as lift these ashes into your mouth. These ashes are your blood. Like your blood could be a restatement of ashes, that it could, what is your ashes could be my blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the line preceding that, of the deaths before and after, to me, there's a kind of hollow echo or foreshadowing that ours too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also struck by the word white, kind of famine bellies, because often when I think of children who are starving, so I don't know whether it's white because it's, you know, I don't know whether she's referring to a group of people or the white belly of the dough that's rising. It suddenly struck me as I had a slightly different image when I was thinking of famine bellies, and so that the white suddenly, you know, just jumped out at me as kind of, you know, slightly in my mind, until I thought about it as being the dough. I just I couldn't quite put the two together.
That's an
And
interesting
hello,
observation.
sorry, except for the Irish famine, they were white, swollen bellies.
But I agree.
Yeah.
I agree
I
with you,
wondered
Rena.
whether she was thinking about that. I wasn't sure.
I wasn't sure either.
No, but I did think of that too, Rena. I was like, well, white is it's a choice to say, you know.
She's made a choice. Yeah, every word is important.
Yeah.
I said,
But it-
so I said, yeah, go on.
There's also famine. There's famine on a physical level, and there's famine on a spiritual level. And that, you know, if white there is speaking of, I mean, if the silver dish is like the silver spoon, and those white populations in the world who are privileged then the famine could be a different kind of famine as well.
Yeah.
True.
Kind of
Yeah, spiritual.
spiritual starvation, yeah. Because they're swollen and taut. And greed.
And in a sense, this poem is circling around an ethic, right? As you guys are pointing out, this ethic of sharing that in a sense would be a medicine for that kind of famine, that spiritual famine. I love that reading, Kate.
Yeah.
This conversation is just rolling on its own momentum. I hate to put pause on it. I know we have some writing to do, and this just feels like the perfect segue or jumping off place for us to launch into some reflective writing. But is there any last observation that someone would like to share? Something that's burning inside you that you want to point out to the group about All Bread?
Well, I was wondering about the title.
Yes. Ooh, I was hoping somebody would ask. Yes. Wonder.
Just wondering. I don't have a explanation. Like all bread, I haven't thought it through. I'm still questioning it. You know, all bread, not different types of bread, not whole grain bread or white bread, or it's just all bread. Every culprit. I don't know yet. I'm just putting it out there. All bread.
And then in the third stanza, she says, "Good bread."
Maybe all bread is the democratizing factor or the universality. We are all made of wood, cow dung, packed brown moss, all of us. And the distinction is in whether we are aware. The difference between good bread and all bread is what happens in those last two stanzas.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That hit me there as well, actually. Yeah. Because the good bread seems to be aware of all this. The good bread can taste the salt and can take, you know, well,
the toil and the labor,
yeah,
and
it
the
has,
love and the
it knows its death and it, you know, so
the sacrifice.
Yeah,
the sacrifice that has been made to bring it to the table and to share it, I guess.
Yeah, that's true, because the poem changes. The first two stanzas could be their own unit, and then the last two stanzas are their own unit. There's a kind of an if-then quality.
Yeah, it's a pattern.
Brilliant. I have nothing to add. I think you guys have made some really important discoveries in this poem. So let's take this conversation into some reflective writing. Pull out a piece of paper and I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to give you a prompt in just a moment. Get my timer set. All right. And I will give you a warning when we're about a minute away. But the goal here is just to write as much as you can, get your thoughts on the page. I encourage you, don't try to write well, don't try to write cleverly. Just surprise yourself by what you already know. Get as many thoughts as you can there. And I'll let you know when you have about a minute left so you can finish your last thought. Our prompt today is to remember the ritual that you named at the beginning of class. Write a recipe for the ritual. The 5-minute timer begins now. Go ahead and finish up your last thought. All right. Go ahead and put your pens down. Wherever you are is fine. I'm going to ask for one volunteer to read their writing aloud to the group today. You can just write it in the group chat. I volunteer. Allie, fantastic. So as Allie reads, we're going to do the same thing that we did for All Bread. We're going to give Allie the same generous attention to detail as we gave Margaret Atwood. We're going to notice words, images, or phrases that call to our senses, make us perk our ears. And after she is done reading, we will reflect by making these observations aloud, by honing in on those details. So Allie, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Sure, thank you. Feet on the ground, covered in rubber. Hard meets fragile, fresh air required. 4 steps, 20 steps, however many it takes. Find the fallen, chase the crunch. Keep ears and heart open. The wild wind will blow, brace it. Let it move the leaves, the air, you. 4 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it takes. Find the fragile fallen and let the fallen find you.
Gorgeous. I'm still writing notes. That was just beautiful. I can't believe you wrote that in 5 minutes, Allie. What did you guys notice? Feel free to just take yourself off mute. Any words or phrases that call to your attention?
I
Do you
love
Could we hear it one
the
more time?
I was going to ask Ali to read it one more time, if she doesn't mind. It was beautiful.
Sure, thank you. I'd be happy to. Okay. Feet on the ground, in rubber. Hard, fragile, fired. 4 steps, 20 steps, however many it takes. Find the fallen, chase the crunch. Keep ears and heart open. The wild wind will blow, brace it. Let it move the leaves, the air, you. 4 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it takes. Find the fragile fallen and let the fallen find you.
Gorgeous.
Allie, thanks. That was really awesome. So I'm curious, what can I ask what the ritual was that you thought of when you were thinking about that recipe?
Yeah, the ritual is just taking a walk and stepping on crunching all the fallen leaves.
Awesome.
Mm. I think that was beautiful, Ali. So many words. The searching, find the fragile fallen, chase the crunch, however long it takes, and then bringing it back round at the end of how that will find you. So that's just really being in the moment, feeling, there was so much senses. I love that line, chase the crunch. That's so visual, that's so sensual, and you can just hear the leaves crunching. No, thank you for sharing that. I thought that was beautiful.
I loved the 4 steps or 20 steps, however long it takes, and then repeating it later with the 4 minutes or 20 minutes. There's just something about kind of encouraging us to sort of be with it for however long the journey is. None of us know, and sometimes it's taking pleasure in the really small things in life, and sometimes it's the things that sort of are slightly longer. But yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Great point, Rainey.
For me, there were some wonderful contrasts. The feet that need to touch the solidity of the ground but are protected in rubber. And then there's the next words were hard and fragile. And then the poem in the middle somewhere, there was the wild wind that will blow, which to me evoked threat, exposure. But then that last line, find the fragile fallen and let the fallen find you, that a willingness to expose oneself to vulnerability, even with rubber on our feet, protecting our feet. It was lovely, lovely, lovely.
I loved that line as well, the find the fragile fallen and let the fallen find you. And to me, it made me think of finding compassion for our patient, for people and patients. And then I thought back of all the other words. You said find the fallen before, brace the wind, let it move you, keep your feet in the ground, but let your ears and heart open. So there's so much openness and compassion and kindness. I thought it was really gorgeous.
I hear so many echoes of Atwood done differently and in a sense better than Atwood. I suppose that there's no comparison, but you've really taken this and made it your own in this beautiful way. I love the command verbs, find, follow, keep open, brace it. But these command verbs slowly become less active and more not passive, but almost calling for an allowance. Let it move you, let the fallen find you. So it's not necessarily calling for action toward the end, but calling for a presence and a groundedness that we saw from that very first line that Kate pointed out, feet on the ground, right? From this groundedness, we find ourselves, and it's not, we find ourselves in relationship with other things that move through us, that we don't just move, that we allow to move us as well. I loved it. A beautiful, beautiful tribute to fall. Any last thoughts on her wonderful poem? I hope it's okay that I call it a poem, Allie. It struck
Oh,
me.
of course. Yes. Y'all are wonderful. Thank you so much for all your kindness. Thank you.
Oh, that was brilliant. Hey, Julia, what you said about the action words, I mean, I kind of, I almost, hear this kind of like reference to Thoreau, like sleeper, stop your sleeping, like please get out, experience, become one with nature. That really struck me too. So thanks for bringing that up. That was cool.
Nice, John. All right, so as usual, friends, we are 5 minutes left and we still have about 15 minutes left to go. So if you need to end now, rather than going into a breakout room and sharing your work with somebody, that is absolutely fine. If you need to go ahead and go, I do encourage you to share your writing with someone today. Let them listen to it. Let them offer you their own reflections on what they found interesting. If you are going to stay, there is just a little bit of etiquette I'll give you around reading and receiving stories while you're in your breakout room. because I won't be there, other students won't be there. You'll navigate it just with you and your partner. So first rule of thumb, if you are a reader, don't qualify your work or tell us what could have been done better or how you meant to say this other thing. Just read exactly the words on the page without any disclaimers at all. It is always already perfect. And listeners, we're going to practice the same things that we've been doing all along, paying attention to details. If something comes up that is traumatic, which may happen, that is okay. Instead of saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you, tell me more about this experience, focus on the story right in front of you. Focus on the material words and details. Just as Margaret Atwood focused on the details of the bread, we're going to focus on the details of this story. And then, of course, everything shared here stays here. Can I get a thumbs up from everybody on screen that everyone agrees to keep any information shared here private? Great. All right, so if you need to skedaddle right now, it was a joy to have you. We'll see you next month. I'll be posting on the Painful Stories page when our next meeting is. For everyone else, I'm going to assign you into a breakout room of 2 people. So you'll have 5 minutes per person to share your writing and to reflect on that person's writing. So 5 whole minutes for sharing and reflecting. And then I'm going to count on you guys to time yourselves. So after that 5 minutes, you'll switch to the next person. The next person will read and you'll reflect on their writing. So you'll be in the breakout room for a total of 10 minutes. Sound good? Any questions? All right.
Julie, I'll stay on with you.
Yeah, you'll stay on, and then you guys can mute yourselves if you like, so that you can share stories. But I'm gonna put everybody else in a breakout room. This is always the interesting part of class where I have to figure out how to make breakout rooms happen. Hang on one moment. I'm gonna stop my screen share. Great. Hang on one moment, guys. Hang on one second, I'm just doing it manually so John doesn't end up in a room, so he and his friend can work together. And you know, Rini, I'm gonna put you in a group of 3, so we'll go a little bit longer than 10 minutes. We'll go about 12 minutes to give everybody enough time. So here we go. All right. I think we did it. There we go. All right. You've been invited to join your breakout rooms.
Hey, Jules.
Right. Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing okay. Doing okay. Yeah, no, I want to thank you. We'll probably take off at this point. So not being able to see the text was like a big thing. I just wanted to let you know about that. That's never happened before. I guess it's a long poem, or I'm not sure why, but like, yeah.
So on my screen, it took up the whole computer screen. Are you working on an iPad or
No, laptop, the one I always use. So your screen wasn't, it was, so if you look at the window you're seeing me in right now, so the text was only about this big in the screen that we get to see in the Zoom screen. Now I know in the past, it's been like full screen. So I don't know what that is.
And could you toggle could you change the size of your screen at all or no?
It's full screen. Yeah.
That's so strange. Yeah, it looked to be full screen on my end too. So I don't know where the glitch was, but I'll make sure next time I have a backup just in case it's a little bit longer.
I just figured I'd share it. Otherwise,
thank you.
That was really fun. I guess we'll talk offline when this is all done. Did you have anything? Thanks so much.
Of course, Don, it was such a pleasure to have you. How did you enjoy everything?
He said he enjoyed it. I don't know if you heard him. He's
Oh, great. You had such great insights to add to the class. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry for the visual problem. I'll make sure next time to have a backup that's larger.
I think it was more me.
I had my glasses on. He did.
Yeah, so I didn't have my readers, and I was like, oh, so yeah, oversight on my part. But anyway, thank you so much. You got time this week? We'll meet up real quick.
Sounds good. Sounds
All right.
wonderful. Yeah, just text me and we'll come up with a plan.
Thank you.
All
Have
right,
a great
guys.
rest of the day.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
See you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. How's everyone feeling?
So sorry, Kate.
That's okay, it's fine.
Did Kate get short shifted? We can hang out afterward if we need to.
It's fine.
I
Rini
love-
got a little short shifted on her feedback as well.
Well, I'm happy to hang if you guys would like to. I love reading Kate's work, and I know I'd love reading Rini's too. So if you want to hang out after the call, I'm here for it. But for right now, I'd love everybody to just, we can kind of go around the group, and we'll close just by naming one thing that we're taking away from our workshop today. It can be something that you learned, or commitment you want to make, or new recipe you want to try, whatever it is. One thing you're taking away from our workout today, our workshop today.
I'm happy to start. Apologies for my internet connection. So if I cut out, just tell me and I'll stop my video. I wanted to thank everybody. This was my first time joining you guys, and it just felt like a really sort of sacred space. I know we've talked about that word quite a lot today, and I've really enjoyed being part of the process and the ritual. And so I will definitely, would love to join you guys again to experience this. And if I don't get to, I'm sure I will, but to do this with other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Rini. You're reminding me that this is a ritual. What we do here every month is its own kind of breaking of the bread together. So thank you for pointing that out.
I agree. This is a ritual, and I think what do I take from it? I think joy of sharing and breaking bread together, which even talking together, sharing, remembering, that's all breaking bread together. So I just take the ritual and all the ingredients that make up, which is all of you together, and all the thoughts and all the amazing conversation that we've had in this evening. So thank you for that.
Do you want to say something?
You want to say something?
This is, not only is this a ritual, but this is a ritual that we would not miss for the world. So it is sacred, and it's also really fun and very supportive and very just a very kind, safe space. And I mean, I'll actually take Ali's lovely words back with me. Find the fragile fallen and let the fallen find you, because I think it's so relevant to what we do, and to keep our hearts and minds open for those vulnerable, more vulnerable in our communities. So yeah, that was a lovely thought to finish for me. Anna, do you want to say something?
Was someone going to say something there?
You say something.
Okay. I just, feel free to interrupt. I think I agree with everything so far. I like the idea that we all have a ritual, and sometimes, it's only when someone asks us what your ritual is, you bring it up, and some people know it off by heart, and that's great, but some people don't think about it, and even though they do have it, and they have the feeling behind the ritual, and it's nice to bring it up sometimes, and whether that's through writing or just thinking about it, but just questioning it a bit more, stopping for a bit to reflect altogether. Any ritual, and if you stop and reflect on it, it's, it has something more. So value, yeah. Thanks.
I love you guys. You guys are mother-daughter goals. Having you guys join together has been such a treat for me, as not just somebody who enjoys talking about literature with you guys, but just watching your relationship is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I didn't think I thought, Catherine, you were going to be traveling. I'm so excited.
Oh, so did I, but our plans changed. So yeah, it's great I could come. As you say, I wouldn't miss it.
I'm so glad you were here, both of you.
For me, everything everybody has said. And also, I was feeling very constricted and stupid in the face of that poem, because I couldn't understand it. And sticking it out. I think what I'm taking away from today is just sticking it out, and the privilege and the gift of hearing other people's thoughts, that brought me eventually into the poem. So thank you all for that. And thank you, Julia, for this fabulous, fabulous, fabulous class.
My pleasure. My pleasure, guys.
Yes, I'm new here as well. And I just wanted to say that I think you guys are such a wonderful group of people, and it was such a joy to hear all of y'all's brilliant comments about Margaret Atwood's poem. I just totally looked at it in an entirely new light, and I overall just found the conversation incredibly nourishing. So thank you so much for your insightful comments.
Thank you, Ali, and thank you so much for sharing your writing with us as a group today. It was just delightful. So if anybody would like to stick around, didn't really feel like their story got heard, I would love to stick around and listen. For everybody else, please let me know if any questions come up in the meantime. For the next month, please come and join us back for the ritual again next month. I'll be posting our next dates in a couple of weeks, so pay attention to our Facebook page, which is the Narrative Medicine and Pain Care page, and I'll also be sending it out via newsletter. If you don't already get our newsletters, stick around, let me know. I'll put you on the list. And I hope you guys have a fantastic fall until then. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely.
Thank you, Claire. So good to see you, honey. So good to have you back.
Julia, I don't do Facebook, so I'd love to be put on the newsletter.
You got it, girl. Are you not already? I thought you were on there. Let me get the right email address for you, because I may not have the right one.
It's just my name at gmail.com.
That's exactly what I was going to say as well. I'm not on Facebook, but I'm just going to pop in my
Yeah.
email here.
Perfect.
So that you have it. And
Kate, I'm just checking, and it looks like you are on the newsletter list. So I'm wondering if maybe it's going to your junk mail. But
I'll take a look.
You know what I'll do? I'll just email you privately every time. I'll make sure that you come, because it is so worth it to have your gorgeous voice here.
No. I'll check my junk mail. You don't need another thing to do. But
I'm happy to. It's such an honor to have you here. So Kate is a brilliant writer, in case you guys didn't know. She's in case you couldn't tell. In case you couldn't tell. So yes,
Turning red.
we have to have you here, Kate. We have to have you here. There's no question about it. And you too, Reedy. I'll make sure to get your email added to the list.
lovely. It's just in there. And can I just check, Julia, is it always at the same time? Just so that I know. I was just sort of waiting, because I wasn't sure about how to convert it to UK time. So if I know this is always the time, then I know what time it is now in the UK.
That is a great question. In the past, we've always done it around this time. However, I have gotten some complaints from the Aussies who feel very left out. And so we may next time do a like a two-part, like one for folks in UK, US, one for people in a different time zone. So I don't 100% know. Likely we will have a section at this time and a section at a later time. But I'm not quite sure. So double check the World Time Buddy just to be sure.
Lovely.
So,
I think I've worked out what.
Sorry, go ahead, Rini.
No, I was just going to say, I think I've worked out the time difference. That the clocks that I was looking at were giving me sort of 2-hour discrepancy. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna.
Rini.
Really, I missed the first one.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. I've got 6 hours now, which was brilliant, because it meant I could read stories to the boys before they went to bed. So thank you, guys.
Important. Rini, it was such a pleasure to meet you.
Lovely to meet you guys too. Thank you so much.
See you soon.
See you.
Julia, we're just here to say it's so fun doing the narrative medicine at the course.
I'm having so much fun having you guys in class. It's amazing. So just so you guys know, Kate and Ali, Catherine and Anna are doing the 9-week course with us right now. And if you think this mother-daughter duo is brilliant in live version, you should see them in writing. Like they just riff off of each other. I mean, it's amazing having you guys in class. So I'm
It's
so
so
glad you
funny.
decided to do
I,
it.
I haven't got to do the last post. I know we're not obliged to do the post responding to the prompts for this
Yeah.
particular week,
Yeah.
but it's really fun to do it anyway. And we just do it. But I'm going to do a response to Anna. That'll be my third. But it was just so funny. We did it on Friday night.
She always responds to me, and I cannot help but feel like I just want to say, thanks, Mom, you know, type into the group, you know.
But on this occasion, we both, well, the prompt was it was a line from the close reading text that we got, and it was look around you
and see where you are
and
now.
see where you are now. And we were both in the
Thanks,
kitchen
Annie.
doing it together. And the difference in our responses, we just laughed our heads off. I mean, mine is, you know, I'm in the kitchen, it's warm and cozy, and, you know, I feel, you know, okay in myself and where I am in my body at the moment, you know, like a middle-aged woman kind of thing to say. And Anna's was just all about the color yellow. And it was just so exquisitely, I have to say, I know I'm her daughter, or her mother, but it was just gorgeous. And
That's great. I can't wait to read it. Today's my day to go through all of the journal entries. I can't wait to read, especially now knowing the context.
Yeah,
but all I would say, it was just so different. They could not have been more different.
That's
It was
so
just
funny.
hilarious.
And such a testament to perspective, right? This whole week is about perspective and bias. So that really like underscores it, that you can be in exactly the same place doing literally the same thing and have a totally different lens and experience. So
I said to Mum, like, you could stay on the perspective and bias for weeks, you know, like weeks of things. You can realize a lot of things in a lot of time, you know, about what you're biased about. So
absolutely.
But it's been fantastic, Julia. Really, I don't know what we'll do when it's over, kind of thing. Do it again.
Oh, I'm just so glad you guys. I had a feeling you'd love it, and I feel like I really roped you into this. Like I lassoed you. Like I made you come.
And it's so interesting watching the group evolve, and it's really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good group, I think.
I'd be curious to hear your perspective on how group dynamics differ from this kind of work that's in person versus in writing on a discussion forum. Do you notice any differences between group dynamics?
Say again, Julie, because you just broke up there.
Oh,
I missed the first part. Yeah, no, it was our internet.
Do you notice any difference in the group dynamics between this kind of live interactive Zoom workshop and doing it in writing on a discussion board? Do you notice any differences in the dynamic that brings up in the group?
I think there's a big difference, because when it's on the Zoom, it's live in real time, and
like there's a lot in the words or you know.
Yes.
I wish you can just type that like and agree with someone, but it's kind of a bit harder than that.
We need like a like button or something.
Or I remember my English teacher, my old English teacher, he stopped being my English teacher for like my final years in secondary school, which is like a breakup for me. When he left, but he left to cut the school. But I remember him telling us something when I was very young, kind of about like, you know, you write your shopping list kind of like two ways. Like you write it, there's a difference between writing your shopping list for you and writing a shopping list for someone doing your shopping. Like for you just write bread, butter, milk, you know, apples. But if I was writing a shopping list to give to my mum, I'd like crisps, apples, Brennan's bread with seeds in it, you know, and milk, you know, full fat, you know, whatever. It has to be exact. So kind of a difference in speaking out loud and, you know, or, you know, your own tongue.
As well, I think you have longer, you know, you have as long as you like to respond. So, and in a way, in some ways, it suits, you know, to have a little bit more time to make a more measured response. It's more spontaneous, obviously, in a Zoom format like this. So, and so that suits some people. Some people think quickly on their feet and on the spot, and or else they've a lot of practice at it. So for someone like me, it probably suits to have a little more time to gather my thoughts and to make a half sensible reply. Do you know what I mean, to somebody?
I
But
agree.
I think it's a good balance.
Yeah.
Very good balance.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm learning too that, you know, it takes both. Like
Yeah.
just having this conversation with you guys makes me realize, you know, there's a pleasure to sitting and having as much time to think and write and consider. There's a real pleasure in that. But when you have to reply off the cuff and you've been practicing sitting and thinking about things for a while, it's like a muscle that, you know, you've been working on in a different way. So applying it, you know, like, so I feel like the two kind of work hand in hand. And
yeah, like we were thinking, even like, I'm sure you've thought of all of this, but like even we were hoping that some of the people would come to this workshop, for
they
example.
signed up, but they didn't come. I know. I was hoping
maybe they got the time wrong, or you know, like I think we did first as well. That's the only thing, but
I should do better about that. I should really make sure that the time zone thing is very clear.
Because or even at the end of the course, we could all meet up, because it's interesting. Two things struck me. One, that it would be really nice to see other people, and I know we get probably to see everybody eventually on the podcast, but then I thought, well, you know, I wonder, would it affect how you perceive their work? I mean, the whole thing.
We're going to talk about this. So we're going to talk about this.
So kind of seeing somebody as opposed to just writing, you know, because sometimes I keep checking back to see what they do and their little bio at the beginning, you know. So I think if we saw them, it would be different again.
Yeah. I agree.
How we perceive their work would be different.
Yeah, not better or worse, but just a different lens, because now you have more information, you know, like
exactly.
You meet somebody, you see how their mouth moves when they talk, and you will always read it in their voice from then on. And even that can change meaning, you know?
Exactly.
I've worked with students for 9 weeks and not discovered until the end of the 9 weeks that, you know, they are a certain race, or that they're a certain gender, you know, that I just didn't know, because it didn't come up. And then you realize, oh my gosh, this person has such an incredible perspective about these works that we've been reading along the way, you know, that I should have been more aware of. But at some way, it's kind of a gift not to be aware, you know,
exactly.
You know, we will meet at the end of this for our final week. It's a capstone project called The Embodied Storyteller, where we're going to be meeting in more of an embodied way, as embodied as we can get, through Zoom. And we're going to be doing some performing together as a group. So so we're going to have some fun. This whole next 4 weeks, we're getting off the page and into you know, installation art, and into slam poetry, and into plays. And it's going to be, pumpkin carving should be in there. So buckle up. We're gonna have a great next month too.
So. Listen, thanks so much. We won't keep you, Julia, but it was lovely. Really
such a pleasure, guys. I adore you both, and I hope to see you. I hope to see you guys very soon. I'm gonna be on the boards this afternoon doing some responding to the journals, and I'll see you guys in a week then.
Okay. Have a nice return yourself.
Enjoy your break.
Take care. Thanks so much, Julia. Bye. Bye.